Yes, welcome into Pitchfork Lunch, Season 1, Episode 3 here on Pitchfork Lunch. I am Michael Caratenuto at Diablo00. Yes, that has been my Twitter handle for quite a long time, not just for the start of the show, although it would have been very suiting. So, yes, at Diablo00 is where you can find me on Twitter. Hit me up, ask questions, all that good stuff. You know, a little back and forth banter never hurt anybody, but you know, let's be fun about it. Well, fun. I mean, yes, people, razzing each other, going back and forth. If you're not a Sun Devil fan, I mean, that's okay. I don't understand why. If you went to that school down south, you know, I mean, that would be understandable, but you know, confusing as to why you would choose that. But yes, we are rolling today. One day closer to football, trying to avenge that loss last year at Oklahoma State. And the good news for Oklahoma State is that it's supposed to be really, really, really hot. A little bit tomorrow or today, and then Friday tomorrow, and then Saturday during the day. It's supposed to be 114 allegedly. But just so you all know, and I hope you're out there. Come on out, enjoy it. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see what this team can do. I mean, Mike Gundy, the head coach of Oklahoma State, saw the coaches talking yesterday on here, Coach Dillingham and the defensive coordinator, Coach Ward, just about, what their offense can look like. And, they did play 3 quarterbacks last week. I mentioned that. So it'll be very interesting. So that is on football. Soccer wise, the Lady Sun Devils are still 3-0-3, have not lost. Yes, have had a few draws, but still have not lost this season. today at 4:00 down in Tucson, they are taking on Utah State. And then Sunday, also down in Tucson, they are taking on Texas Tech as part of that tournament. They return home next Friday to take on Colorado College. And then the Friday after that, they start conference play at home, like I said, for head coach Graham Winkworth against Oregon State. So that is where soccer is at. But again, still looking to build off this. Again, it's a young team. It is a young team. I know I mentioned that when we on the first show on Tuesday, but it is a young team. And they also have a World Cup player on their team. And I so buried the lead the other day talking about it. But Gabby Rennie, who is from New Zealand, just played for her home country in the last World Cup. So, yes, not only looking forward to getting Coach Winkworth on, but Gabby has talked about it. And yes, just different players throughout the season, but looking forward to getting Gabby on the show because, again, what a phenomenal experience and honor to represent your country in the World Cup. So, yeah, that is just absolutely awesome for the forward. Again, being from Christchurch, New Zealand, and she actually transferred into ASU from Indiana, is where she was playing last. But again, very, very awesome. They are 3-0-3. That is where they are at. And then, but today, you saw it mentioned on talking about it on Twitter at Diablo00. Today, it's awesome. We are going to have volleyball head coach JJ Van Niel, again, a very experienced volleyball coach, actually played ice hockey as well. And we'll get into that again, getting to know him, getting to know his team. But, it's a very interesting coach path to coaching volleyball. Has had a lot of success in doing it and being in Southern California. It's not, again, not too much of a stretch to if you're getting into that, but to find the talent, but to coach it up and have success. So he will be joining us and talking about his team's fast start ahead of, like I said, the Lumberjack Classic. They're up in Flagstaff today. And then Friday and Saturday today, they play NAU at 6:30. I want to say, get that right. Yes, 6:30 local time. And then tomorrow they have Boise State at 5. Saturday, Sun Devil Nation, you can have a lot of fun. You could, if you get a chance, you could even go up tomorrow. Go up to Flagstaff, spend a day and a half. They play Stephen F. Austin at 11 a.m. Saturday morning. So you could check out the Lady Sun Devils, support them, get on up to go on up the hill, as we say. Watch that. Enjoy the match. Come back down. Get some lunch, come back down, and then hit the ASU game at 7:30 is kickoff. So you have more than enough time. More than enough time to do both. So that will be very awesome. to get to do that. But yeah, you can check them out. Like I said, they're playing NAU, Boise State, and Stephen F. Austin. And yeah, it's his first year as head coach. So the one thing, excuse me, pardon me, we'll have to find out. I'm going to ask him, and I know as fans, you're probably thinking, man, all these home games. And again, with schedules getting finalized, I mean, in all college sports, they get finalized pretty early. Or who you're playing and where you're playing, you obviously have to line that up a few seasons before you try and do it. But nonetheless, just his thought on, having the maroon and gold scrimmage and then being the road warriors that they've been. So, but very interesting. And yeah, it's just exciting in Sun Devil Nation as men's basketball and women's basketball also came out with their non-conference schedule. So that is where we are at with that. And people are like, man, football just started. Well, I mean, basketball's about 55 days away from starting. So yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of football games quite a few more football games we'll go through. But yeah, basketball about 55 days away. We'll see what Coach Adair on the women's side can do in her second season. And, when she first took over, I mean, you can obviously see the basketball acumen and IQ, but when you take over for the person, Charlie Turner Thorne had decided to step away, and Coach Thorne, again, definitely earned it. Now an assistant coach, one of her former assistants at ASU, Nikki Blue, who played at UCLA, became the interim head coach. And she reached out to Coach Thorne and see if she could get her to at least coach with her the rest of this season. And she did. And tough for the Mercury, although they do have some Pac-12 love on that team. So a little UCLA, a little rivalry though, the UCLA USC on the team. But taking over, people always say, oh, it's the old adage was you don't want to be the person after the person. So being the first person up, and yeah, I mean, it was a challenging season, but the team fought. No matter what, the team fought last year for Coach Adair, and that she can build on that. So we'll see if they do. Coach Hurley, again, back in the tournament again. Yes, they were in the play-in and they blew Nevada out, and then ran into a TCU team, which they had the lead on, and then back and forth like a heavyweight fight, and then fell, 2 points short. But new season for Coach Hurley and the Sun Devil Hoops. So that is absolutely awesome that we got the schedule. Sun Devil Nation, there's a lot to be excited for. But like I said, we're delivering a first coach on this program. So very grateful. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, JJ Van Neel will be joining me. And yes, we are going to be talking volleyball, which to me, one of the toughest sports to coach, just because you have to have a very short-term memory. But we'll be back here on Pitchfork Lunch. All right, back here on Pitchfork Lunch again, episode 3. We're just getting rolling, but I am Uncle Homer, as we know, at Diablo00, Michael Caratanudo. But yes, without further ado, I want to get him in here. Arizona State head coach, head volleyball coach, JJ Van Niel. Coach, man, I know it's game day, but thank you so much for joining me. I know last time I got to talk to you was the last time you guys actually knew what a home game was like at the Maroon and Gold scrimmage, but off to a great start, man. How's it been so far for you?
It's been great. I couldn't really ask for anything more. Obviously, undefeated. Not that it's obviously it's about the wins and losses, but I think a lot of it's also just how we're progressing. Are we implementing things we're trying to implement? Are we doing the things we set out to do starting last spring? And I think on a lot of those fronts, we're hitting our marks pretty well. So I'm very excited about that. We've had contributions from everyone, which has been really cool. I think sometimes it gets really hard if you're only relying on one person. I mean, Marta obviously was the obvious one, and it was Pac-12 preseason team, and that's the one that everyone knows about. But Jelly's been crushing it. She's hitting for around the same efficiency, just around the same number of kills per set. Rob has been contributing really nicely. I mean, both of them have been off the charts good. Our passing's been great. Our middles, Maddie, who we moved to the middle halfway through last spring. I remember sitting down with her and saying, "Hey, I think I want to move to the middle. What do you think?" And she's like, "Whatever you want to do, coach," which was cool. Sometimes you don't get that response from kids who are just sort of set on, this is what I've always done. And she's worked really, really hard and done some really nice things there. And there's still just a ton more that she can get better at. So I'm really excited about that. And then, all our libero DSs. So yeah, Shannon's been running a really good offense. I don't really look at rankings. I don't look at standings. But of course, inevitably when I'm talking to buddies, I start bringing stuff up. I'm like, we're only 6 matches in. Slow down. Reach me at the halfway point and see if we're still looking the way we do. But I'm excited. We couldn't be playing any better, really. Aside from maybe a few things that we're kind of trying to hash out. But yeah, we got another tournament this weekend that we got to go perform, and I'm excited. I think it's always fun to compete and get out there. So,
absolutely correct, Coach. And yeah, I mean, obviously I just started my show. I know I told you about it, but yeah, being an alum, it's been a brainchild of mine having kind of a ASU Homer show. And yes, I know not everything's. I've already told the fans in the beginning, the first show, yes, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. If there's something that might not be on positive and it's out there, yes, as a journalist to report it, but there's no need to always focus on the negative. But the coolest thing, and I talked about this actually yesterday on the show before I knew I was going to have you on. How does a guy go from playing ice hockey to becoming a very successful volleyball coach? That's what I want. That's what the fans want to know.
Well, I definitely had an unusual path to where I got here. I actually played volleyball before I started playing ice hockey. Just with friends, like totally randomly. There weren't leagues back then. There was no club until you got into high school. So I don't know, when I was in 7th grade, me and some buddies would play at Malaga Cove middle school out on the hard courts. So we started playing volleyball, and I grew up in an area where there's a lot of beach volleyball and things. And then I got really into ice hockey, and that kind of became my thread. As I think I'd mentioned, I was on the club team at USC, and actually played against Coach Powers because he was at ASU on the club team around the same time. They would smash us. But one of my good buddies was his backup goalie, so I always loved this trip back then. But yeah, when I played volleyball obviously growing up, and when I started coaching it, I fell in love, and I just fell in love with it, and I became obsessed with trying to learn. And I've been really fortunate to have some pretty amazing mentors and coaches that I've worked with, and just people that have been so willing to help. I'm blessed with kind of the people I've been around, and people that took shots at me. I mean, Beth Lanier brought me from being a club coach to first assistant at a Pac-12 school. Like at the time, I didn't realize how unlikely that path is and how hard it is. But of course, now as I've been here in the college game for a while, it's really hard. And takes a lot of work. So I was very fortunate that she kind of gave me that shot. And that's just, like I said, so many wonderful people helped me through my career, and it's been really fun. So.
And yeah, I mean, when, like I said, like when you first got hired, reading your bio, I'm like, man, that, and having coached club in Southern California, I got it because you coached at Coast. So did you guys ever play in Festival here in Phoenix?
No, back then I've coached a couple teams in Festival over the years, but back then our teams at the end of the year were always going to the junior nationals.
Okay.
But I have coached a couple of teams at Festival. So.
Yeah, because I actually did some of the broadcasts for Festival for a few years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Different and I know, like I said, though, oh man, I mean, it's been a minute since I've done it, but when I first did it, I could have, like, maybe not the first year, but the second year, I could have swore there were some teams from Coast there, because I remember, like, when I saw that, I was like, cool. But nonetheless, and I said even before the break, I know you heard me, and coming back, like, volleyball to me is one of the, obviously, yes, the players have to have the talent and skill. And I get it. Even when I was younger, I got so tired of hearing, oh, well, girls just have to be tall. Coach, being tall does not mean you're athletic, does not mean you can play anything. But having a short-term memory, because for all athletes, like when you screw up, again, you've worked so hard, it's hard to shake it. What are some of the tricks? Don't want to give away your full coaching array here, but just to kind of get players. I mean, even, like you said, at the club level, high school, you've coached it all, obviously Division I, but just to have that short-term memory, because we've all, as athletes, done something, we feel we were in the right position, we make a total boneheaded play, and ball flies off the court, ball flies into the back of our teammate's back, or into the net. But just having that short-term memory, what's kind of the toughest part about coaching that? Because again, human nature, you're kind of like, oh man, I screwed up. But if you dwell on it too long, you're probably going to screw up again, as you coaches say.
Yeah, 100%. I think the mental game is really, really hard. And, I think over the past probably 10 years, the amount of resources invested in mental performance has to have, like, it's got to be 100 times more now what pro teams and everyone else is spending on this stuff. I know a lot of programs have full-time. We have someone that's been helping us, which is really, really cool, with just some various techniques. And I think, one, you talk about it and you're trying to get in, like, hey, what are you thinking when that happens? What's going through your mind? And then you're helping them try to think about reframing. And then you got to catch them in practice when they're in that scenario, to try to have them practice. Because obviously, I mean, this is all just so cliche, but like, you can't just do it in a game. You got to do it in practice, right? So the idea that I'm just going to figure it out in a game isn't really going to work. And I'm really fortunate. I've got a team that they're just so bought in and fired up to get better and do the things they need to do to get better. It's really fun. I mean, every day, I just love walking in our practice gym. I love being around this team. And I think that some of the kids that have struggled the most with that have made some really, really impressive strides so far this season on managing, the mental aspect of the game. Because, inevitably at high level, in any business world, in sport, in anything, you get type A personalities, and those are the ones that usually struggle the most. So, like, how do you let it go? How do you have that short-term memory of, I just, got ace 3 times, but I got to pass the next ball. I can't be lingering on it because I can't go back in time. So it's definitely something we worked a lot on, and we talk about, and try to catch it in practice and work on that stuff.
Now, another thing, I have gotten a few messages for people that would love to come out, but when you got hired, was this schedule kind of all, because I know schedules are set far enough out, but when you got hired, I mean, you got to hit the ground running too, because of transfer world, but schedule wise, I mean, you've been road warriors. I mean, 6-0, you say, you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's early, it's 6-0, but it's cross country trip. It's, another trip. And now, yes, this is at least an in-state one. And I'm trying to get people to go up there to cheer you guys on, because Saturday, I told everybody it'd be a great Sun Devil Saturday. Go up maybe Friday night if you can, check out the match Friday night, but Saturday morning, watch you guys play Stephen F. Austin, drive back, down the hill for the football game Saturday night. It's, it's a Sun Devil haven. But did you kind of already inherit this schedule and say, okay, we're just starting and our first home game is not going to be until we see, that whatever conference team from down south?
I there wasn't a schedule when I got here.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as I
Oh,
was
so you were behind the 8 ball then a little bit.
as I was trying to build it, I wasn't able to put together. I wasn't able to get enough teams to commit to come out because a lot of scheduling done early and early and earlier every year, and yeah, I wasn't able to. I was really trying hard to host either first or fourth weekend, but this is our kind of hosting weekend because at least it's local. So
Yeah,
when I reached
exactly.
out to Ken, I'm like, listen, are you hosting any weekends? I don't want to get on a plane 4 straight weekends, but I think it's good. It's the more adversity that the kids face, the better. You got to deal with delays and time changes and get uncomfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that. So so far they've done a really really nice job of kind of just managing through all this. I mean, I was really impressed first weekend because that one I was very nervous. You're going all the way across the country through a time change. We had some early matches, but yeah, I didn't inherit a schedule. I had to build it, and it was a little late, and kind of is what it is. But yeah, I think we're up for the challenge, and I think they view it as a cool challenge.
Yeah, because I always hear coaches say, I mean, going on the road and, and a lot of these girls have obviously played club. Like you said, you coach, you travel, you learn how to, like you said, the little things, be immature. And for all athletes, I played club soccer growing up. I played for my uncle. So side note, coach, we weren't going to get out of line because it wasn't going to be pretty, but you learn those things, you have fun, and like you said, you deal with delays. But from coaching club, and obviously having that age, I know I saw you coach the 17 ones team, but just in coaching that experience, how does that actually help coaches like jumping from, the high school club level, but to coaching in Division 1, like you did?
I mean, coaching's coaching, like I think you're at the end of the day trying to make some behavior changes, changing some motor patterns. And so I think that stuff doesn't really change. I mean, the interesting thing is in club, you actually, to some extent, you actually get more time with your team to actually train because of the way the NCAA rules are. Um, so that part, is really nice. I think one of the big things that was a shock to me or I had to learn was the kind of I don't like to say grind, but the amount of time that student athletes have to put in to their sport. I think in club you don't really appreciate it. And I think the kids that when they're getting recruited, they don't really realize what a major time commitment it is. Like yeah, it's 20 hours a week, but it really ends up being more like when you start talking about all the medical stuff, like getting in for your rehab, really having to be good with time management. So I think over the years, I've had some great people to uh, help me appreciate that side of it even more. I remember my first year at Utah. We're that was a rough season, and I'm someone that loves to get in the practice gym and practice. And I remember Beth is like, you know what, our team just needs a breather, like mentally, physically, we got to take an extra day off. And I'm like, are you crazy? I shouldn't even tell the story probably, but so I'm sitting there like, Beth, no. And sure enough, like she was 100% right, and that story's always going to stick with me. Because I think sometimes as coaches, it's just like push, push, push. And
Right.
one of the things you really have to learn how to do is get a feel for both the mental fatigue, which is a real thing, and the physical, and keep them fresh because it's a long season. Um, with all the travel, all the other things they have to do, managing school, all the time management stuff. So that's I think one of the things that was probably the biggest challenge, going from just being able to coach. Coaching is coaching.
Right.
Like a great 12s coach is still a good coach. So the
Right.
coaching piece to me was the easy part, or I shouldn't say easy, but the more natural part for me because I just love that piece of it. But some of these other things, are really, really important. And the investment you got to have in the relationships with the student athletes is pretty important to our program. So,
Oh yeah, and it's funny you say that, coach, because like I said, I remember, like I said, playing for my uncle. And like, there are days literally we come out to practice, we would do our warm up, and like one of our assistants, he would kind of see it, and my uncle was like, are you kidding me? But we would play kickball. We would play, dodgeball. We would just go play other games because it's like, yeah, we're still obviously getting the physical part in, like you're saying, but it was just kind of like just let them detox from everything. So, I mean, even when I was younger, because I'm kind of like you, I was like, no, we don't need this. Let's go. But when you're constantly doing that, it's like, yeah, you do need this, and you just don't, you're not wired that way. Let me ask you this too, because I know you got to get going again. JJ, I appreciate the time. And again, full disclosure, I'm trying to get everybody to go up Saturday. I am trying to come up Saturday morning because I want to check it out. But either way, I'm telling you, I'm getting everybody rallied up because the 21st, it was an awesome thing. The scrimmage at Mullet, but opening up with that team down south, I'm looking forward to that. But again, see, I can say it. You guys say cliche one at a time because it is one at a time.
Yep.
But putting this roster together too, I mean, putting a schedule together with the transfer portal the way it is, every sport, all coaches have to deal with it. It's got to be the right fit for you, right fit for them, first of all. But I mean, if it's the right fit for you, you had a few returners. I mean, you mentioned Mar, obviously having a big hitter return definitely helps, and a few more. But working the transfer portal, bringing these girls in, bringing somebody. I mean, you mentioned Shannon, bringing someone like Shannon and Mary that were local kids that had very great high school careers here. With recruiting as tough as it is, and I mean, granted, the numbers aren't like football. I mean, volleyball, basically like basketball, you have 12, 13 players. So, but the challenge in that, but then the other side of that, you're talking about getting to mesh, bringing other players in that were playing for different coaches, pseudo different systems. How much of a challenge has that been, but how much fun has that been for you, seeing the girls come together like this?
Yeah, it's always amazing to see. I mean, every year's a new year. You get, all kinds of different dynamics with the kids that you get in your program. And so you got to have kind of your standards that your program's about. And then, the team's got to have some standards that they're about. And I just think I was really fortunate in the 9 that were here in the spring. We're just really on the same page with kind of some of the things that we valued. And as we went through the portal process, part of that process is not just, are they good enough to be here, but it's also, are they going to fit culturally? And,
Right.
To a T, everyone, I mean, this team, like I said, it's just a joy to be around. And I get such great feedback. I mean, one of the things that makes me most proud is when I hear, a bus driver that's worked with them is like, man, your team's been so great. They're so polite and we really appreciate it. And when you go on the road and people talk about them, those are the things that I think are awesome to hear about your team. And it's a really fun group that I think has done a really good job of bringing in all 6 of the new kids, and making sure that we all have kind of the same standards, but also that there isn't like, oh, you're an outsider. Like you come in and you're part of the group, you're part of the tribe right away. So it's been great, and I give all the credit to the players. They've been phenomenal. Our leadership group's crushing it, and everyone in the program is crushing it. So it's been really fun.
Well, you've been off to a great start, and I know that at the Maroon and Gold scrimmage, I got to talk to one of your assistants because, I'm not saying either one of us is old, but I remember covering her in high school at Hamilton, Presley Anderson. And that's the one thing as coaches too. Lastly, I will say this, like you obviously got a shot. You got to coach at your alma mater, but bringing in coaches that had a high success level as a player doesn't mean you have a high success level as a coach, but that know the game. Working with somebody like Presley, though, bringing like her back here, obviously, I know Coach Dillingham started said activate the Valley and bringing a local player back. But I mean, what's she been like just bouncing things off of, and that you've taken from her and her working with the team as well?
Yeah, I've got a really awesome staff that I think complements me really, really well. Presley brings just a phenomenal personality, an exuberance for life, and she's really charismatic and really connects well with the team and with recruits, which is really, really important. Um, and I think having someone that's, only a few years removed from going through it, and the fact that she's from Arizona. I mean, for someone who didn't go to Arizona State, like I've never met anyone more passionate about Arizona State. And obviously her dad was a wrestler here. She grew up here. Um, but she's really, really passionate about ASU, about the area, which you want. And so that piece is really awesome. But just the fact that she was in the Pac-12, in the Big 12, she's got all these experiences that I think make it really easy for her to connect with the players as they're going through the inevitable things that they're going through. So that piece is awesome. And then Ellen, our recruiting coordinator, is literally like the smartest person in the room everywhere we go. She's really sharp. She's a really, really good volleyball mind. And I'm really fortunate to have her. So it's a cool staff. And then Rachel, was just promoted our third assistant, has just a vast amount of experience and has lived in Arizona for quite a while. So again, she's really connected in the Valley and like knows all the club people, was coaching at a club, knows all the local players. Like just it's a cool group. So I'm fortunate. I have a really awesome staff and I've got a really awesome group of kids that we get to coach.
All right. Well, you don't have to say who, but is there somebody or maybe two people on the team that are the best pranksters? I mean, has somebody played pretty good jokes on somebody yet? Has that started, to keep things a little lively?
It hasn't. I guess I'll have to tell them that you were asking about that. Maybe it'll start.
Oh, no. I want it to be organically. I'm just saying, and a lot of times I tell coaches and players, like, it's a PG-13 story. So, like, I don't want to know that you try to shave one of your teammates' heads because that's not funny. To me.
No. But we definitely have a lot of kids that have fun playing. We play a lot of card games together, and
nice.
Yeah, it gets pretty competitive. So that part's really fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, anytime you get a few athletes together, like till this day, I used to go bowling when my dad was a good bowler, but I used to love going, but like we go bowling, like I can't just like throw a mess around shot. Like it doesn't happen. But that being said, Coach, look, thank you so much for the time again. I'm going to try and get up there on Saturday. I just want to see you back on the ice with Coach Powers. I want to see, after your season, maybe practice at one of his practices. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think he might welcome it.
I'd definitely be down for that. He tells me he doesn't get out on the ice anymore, but maybe we can both convince him and I'll get out there with him.
Oh, well, I'm in your corner now. Like I said, I'd do the show right from there, man. So everybody could see you guys. Doing it. Hey, Coach, look, thanks so much for the time again. Going to try and make it up Saturday. If not, I know I will definitely see you out at like they said, that first conference game, which we're looking forward to. But you got business to take care of first here, and then in Memphis, another plane ride, like you said.
That's right.
But hey, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll catch up soon. And yes, also the players too. We'll catch up with them. But good luck this weekend, Coach.
Perfect. Thanks. Appreciate all your support.
Man, that is awesome. JJ Van Neal joining me. See, Pitchfork Lunch. We do it all here. We can do it all. And again, like he said, man, support this team. Like, support this team. It is it is fun. I asked him, he talked about Shannon running an offense. Shannon Shields played at Xavier, went to Louisville. I mentioned that yesterday. Mary Schroll, who is at Corona, went to LMU. Again, transferred back here. And he just said the girls that were, you heard them. That were in the portal, they mixed it up. It was absolutely, as a coach. And again, he has the experience. Want to get to that. And we'll have it on. We don't have time to, man, talking to coaches again, it's always been entertaining to me. Not entertaining, but just fun, educational. Yeah, entertaining, fun, educational. But just listening to what they're saying, hearing because it is coaching, but everybody has their the way they like to do things. And when a new coach comes in, that's the thing. Like, people say the culture has to be changed. Okay, I'm not saying you don't have to have a good culture, a good, a vibe, an aura, if you want to say, around the program. But you can just see coach watching him coach again in the Maroon Eagle scrimmage. It was funny. I don't know if you guys, hopefully you guys have seen the movie Glory Road with Josh Lucas, the Don Haskins story about the UTEP Miners at the time. But coach was coaching, on one side, and then at the next set he went down to the other side, and it's not like but Don Haskins in the movie, Josh Lucas walks down and sits on the other coaches. He's like, "That's my seat, coach," and he goes, "I like the view from down here better." It was a little opposite of that. It was a scrimmage. Anyway, more entertaining to me probably. But I mean, just even early on, you could just see the energy, and they were playing at Mullet Arena. That's why I asked them about the ice hockey. Yes, they're going to play, like I said, in Desert Financial. But they do have matches. That first match against Arizona, which they have a lot to take care of before that, you heard coach, so I can always fast forward. But again, they it is that one, the one game at a time, the one match at a time mentality, which inevitably it should be. But you should be excited to look at your schedule and saying, okay, we need to take care of business, we need to focus, all that good stuff. But the true stuff, I should say, true. But yeah, so I mean, look, it is a fun team, and when you have a hitter, like Marta, like Geely, like it's just it's fun. It's fun to watch, and you support this team. Come on out. Like I said, I will be out there throughout the season. We'll see if I can make it up there Saturday. It is an 11 a.m. Match, but again, we'll see. It just depends. But we'll be there in support. We'll be somehow watching either way. So again, JJ Vaniel, we're gonna take a quick break, and on the other side, I give you a little bit more about the matchup. Obviously, Oklahoma State ASU with football, and we will go from there. So we'll step aside, but again, so glad you joined us here on Pitchfork Lunch, coming to you live. Again, you can see it on Twitter at Diablo00, on my Facebook, on my YouTube, and coming very shortly to KSRN Live. Again, I'll have the replays up, but coming to KSRN, again, Casual Sports Radio Network. Looking very forward to that, working with my guy Earl and over there. So yes, it's coming. We are rolling. This is Pitchfork Lunch, and I will have more coming up. Welcome back to Pitchfork Lunch. I am Michael Caratenuto at Diablo00 on Twitter. And yes, the Sports Arena, you can catch it Monday nights, 10 o'clock Eastern. Our host, Eric Wilson, my brother, Ray Lynn, John Shear, Megan Price, the big guard at Tyree. Even though he's a Niners fan, we let him, we let him pull up, as he says. Yeah, Monday nights, 10 o'clock Eastern. You can check us out. Again, appreciate the support. But here on Pitchfork Lunch, and yeah, just mad ups to JJ Van Neal, the women's volleyball coach at Arizona State, and his first year. And like you said, I mean, he coached at Utah, he coached at his alma mater at USC, coached at the high school level, coached at the club level, Grand Coast Volleyball in the financial world, a club ice hockey player too, all of it. And again, just so awesome catching up with him. Got to talk to him at the Maroon and Gold scrimmage. And yeah, I look forward again to getting the players on too. We're gonna have fun with this. We're gonna have fun. It is gonna be a Sun Devil Nation smorgasbord, jamboree, buffet of just fun. But I mean, yeah, you saw that there. And that's just gonna obviously talk X and O's. We're gonna talk about the team, and it's early, and again, they're in Flagstaff, so it's not too bad. They didn't have to get on a plane this week. Next weekend, they'll be headed to Memphis to play in the Beale Street Classic. And then, yes, Thursday, the 21st, they return home for Arizona. And yeah, that'll be that'll be a very fun match. That'll be a very fun match. So, pardon me. Yes, that's where we are with that. But as for football, like I said, we have Oklahoma State coming up. We have Oklahoma State coming up, and it is going to – they lost to them last year. I mean, 34-17. I told you guys about it. You know about it. And they again, through the third quarter, I mean, it wasn't, ASU shut Oklahoma State out in the first quarter. Oklahoma State shut them out in the second quarter. I talked about it, but it is going to look a little different this year. Oklahoma State, a new defensive coordinator. They're running a 3-3-5 defense. And they again, 3-3-5 is a little different to play against, because when you hear that initially and you're thinking, you're kind of looking, you're like, oh, they got three up front. I mean, we can definitely run. Like, running the ball should be open, but in their responsibilities, especially, because you have three down linemen, three backers, 3 or 5 in the secondary. But I mean, you're gonna have some of those secondary plug-in, like, that'll be on the outside, that'll be on the inside. So again, it's just a different scheme, tough to block. So that'll be the interesting part of the chess match when you look at the ASU offense and the Oklahoma State defense. I mean, for ASU in the last 25 years, they've gone 11-4 in games against Power 5 opponents. So, and Notre Dame. Don't forget Notre Dame, because yes, they are staying independent. You can have all these super conferences you want. people will still schedule Notre Dame. They still have their rivalries. They're not going to go in there and tell teams, whatever. You got USC now in the Big Ten. They're not going to tell USC you ain't scheduled Notre Dame anymore. The alumni would revolt, and the Big Ten would, of course, they'd be running with their tail between their legs, as we say. But nonetheless, I digress. Back to this game. Oklahoma State, though, they have won 7 consecutive non-conference road games, and that dates back to 2013. Shout out to Jeremy Hawks for getting the preview ready for this game. But offensively, look, we saw what Cam Scatterbo could do. DeCarlos Brooks running the ball looked good. Those again, you're not so much their screen passes, but they are screens. Just the quick hitters of the running backs coming out of the backfield. I mean, is always an extension of the running game. So, I mean, it's about, as we know, setting up mismatches, which is huge. But Scatterbo looked really good. With a 3-3-5, if you got multiple receivers too, I mean, that's the chess match. Especially with, you're mixing your pattern trees up. Some of that underneath stuff is going to break open, but that can also lead to, if somebody steps up hitting the deep ball. So it's supposed to be hot, which is good. And no, knock on wood, no 2.5-hour lightning delay this week at Mountain America Stadium, please. We don't want that whatsoever at all. And it's very, very interesting. And this matchup, because I'll tell you this, for two teams that didn't cancel this game because they're going to be, it was too late anyway. Yes, that is a shot at Georgia and Oklahoma. Because Oklahoma supposed to play Georgia because they're going to the SEC next year, and some scheduling things. They couldn't play that game this year. Going to go with Lane. But nonetheless, we're not talking about that conference over here. But yeah, I mean, look, going forward, this is huge because ASU in the Pac-12, yes, was not picked to do very well. Pac-12 Media Day, picked to finish towards the bottom. And off of what happened last year. But look, there's a Coach Dillingham. If you haven't heard me say it, I've said it a million times before, but him and his staff, they came in and hit the ground. People always say hit the ground running, that old adage. No, they hit the ground truly sprinting, because the fact that they were able to field a roster for spring ball to where they could actually hit and not feel like, okay, we can work on stuff, but like our numbers are dwindled. And hit the recruiting trail. They hit the recruiting trail, bringing people in, all that good stuff. But and got more players to come in the fall. Came in for fall camp, but came in over the summer. Look, just to do that is a mini success. Now, of course, he'll say, well, it's our job. And getting started, early, of course, is always, ideal, but early, late doesn't matter. It's their job. And man, it's a game like this, and it's every game as a new coach a new head coach of the program going forward. You look at it, you get a big win like this, and what does that do? And of course, winning breeds success, but it excites the fan base more, gets more butts and seats. And with 8 home games, I mean, come on, fans, get out there. 14,000 students last week. Hey, not all stayed for the 2.5-hour lightning delay, in which I am not going to give a hard time to. I would have been part of the few that did stay. And if you saw the replay of the game, but it was on the Pac-12 network. Ashley Adamson said she gave a shout out to the students that came back and that stayed through the game. So which ended at 1:01 in the morning. So none of that this week. But look, defensively, Oklahoma State, it's going to be interesting because yes, you're going to have your shots, but with the 3-3-5, that's a lot of traffic. That's a lot of bodies for the quarterback when he's going through progressions for Jaden Rashada. I mean, any quarterback. I'm not saying Rashada because he's a true freshman, but that's a lot to look back. So the running game can come in huge, and you start to run the ball, and what happens? And you're taking chunks. Well, guess what? A few of those bodies are going to start to move up, and that can open up spaces in the field. That chess match to me, that's why I want to talk about it today, is going to be completely interesting. But yeah, man, it's tough to play a 3-3-5 because I mean you have to have linemen again, and they can get pressure. You think, oh well, not that they're not getting a blitz, but it's saying on plays they don't blitz, people are thinking, oh well, 3 down linemen to 3 defensive linemen to 5 offensive linemen. I mean, they'll have all day to throw. Look, that's obviously not always the case. In an ideal world in offense, it would be, but. I mean, he will have some time to throw. I'm not saying that he won't, but mixing it in the game plan, like I'm interested to see with Scadaboo and DeCarlos Brooks, and might we see a little bit more of Tevin White running the ball too for the Sun Devils. But between Brooks and Scadaboo, who had again very solid opening games, we'll see. And I mean look offensively, I will say this: that touchdown pass that Rashada hit Xavier Guillory on the 4th and 7 last week. They were in plus territory. It's just an odd place to punt. Yeah, you go off of your opponent and what they're doing against your defense. But man, and you heard Xavier say it earlier this week. I played it on the show that man, he just looked up and when he located it first, he thought it was too high. Thought it was going to overshoot him, and he goes, I just kept running to it. And man, all through fall camp, you've seen it. I've had it on Twitter at Diablo00. You've seen videos, some of his catches. Like, granted, it's in individuals, but even in team drills, just being there, seeing it. Spring ball. This young man catches seemingly everything. I mean, if he doesn't, it's an absolute shock. It is a total. An utter absolute shock. So the offense is going to be looking to do that. It is going to be looking to go. You're going to want to create those mismatches. How can you do it? And against a 3-3-5, again, at times, because you're seeing where they might be bringing pressure from. But that was that's from a team that, is running this set. So you say if you have certain plays that might be in a similar formation, you could be like, okay, this is where we can attack. So that part, again, the offense playing the 3-3-5, we shall see. We shall see. But that's going to wrap it up for me today here on Pitchfork Lunch. Again, glad you all checked it out. Mad shout out to JJ Van Niel, the ASU women's volleyball head coach, 6-0. They are up in Flagstaff this weekend. Again, tonight they take on NAU at 6:30. And then who obviously the host of the Lumberjack Classic. Then tomorrow at 5, they take on Boise State. And then Saturday, like I said, at 11 a.m., they take on Stephen F. Austin. Yes, they take on Stephen F. Austin. And again, Sun Devil Nation, if you're going to go up, it's worth it. It's worth it. Even if you go up Saturday morning, again, get there, go to the match finishes, get some lunch, and then come back down the hill, go to the ASU Oklahoma State football game, baby. This is Pitchfork Lunch. Yes, I am Uncle Homer, thanks to Greg Moore. But I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, 12 o'clock. And I'll be chatting a little more matchups on football, soccer as well. We'll get to that. And, getting everybody ready for the weekend. So I will see you tomorrow. And yes, you guys know, as always, forks up.
Terry's three. Johnny Walker matching up against control. His shot. Bruce score. They score. They tie the game up 2-2. Some drives out for Robbie Ryan. Her three right on the money. This is Thea Hansen for three. Other side of the rim with a pretty reverse. Wow. 5 seconds to go. Find Hawk. Hawk spins. It rolls on. And Arizona State wins it. Edwards pulls off and buries the puck. Daniels takes the shot.